Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to our channel. My name is Barb, and my husband and Dan and I live on a small 10-acre homestead in northern Michigan, not far from the 45th parallel, which is halfway between the equator and the North Pole. It is New Year's Eve today, and I am out in the garden, and you can see we've lost quite a bit of snow. We've had a lot of early snow this year, and it's actually a really good day to be out in the garden because I could actually see and feel sun on my face. This is the first day we have actually seen the sun in over a month. We keep track of our solar on our phones, and we can tell exactly how many watts we make on any given day. And yesterday we saw just a peek of the sun, and we made 500 watts of solar power for the entire day. And that was about 450 more watts than we've been making on any given day in the last 30 days at least. So it's good to feel the sun on our face and be out here working in the garden today. Normally at this time of year, as soon as the holidays are done and the hustle and bustle is done, I'm settling down for the winter, planting my garden, but most of that work is done inside the house. I am assessing the failures and the successes of the prior garden years and wondering what I want to plant and just making all sorts of plans, poring over those seed catalogs when they come in the mail and just deciding, oh, I want to try that seed. Oh, there's a new seed, I want to try that. And just planning. And it's a big part of gardening is to plan ahead and get your garden figured out ahead of time. This chore that we need to do today, however, can only be done outside this time of year. And what I'm talking about, this oak tree behind me here is hanging over my garden, and we need to trim these branches back just a little bit to allow for the sunlight to get to this area right here, because I want to expand my perennial herb beds and also add some other perennial type fruits and vegetables, and get my raspberries over on this side of the garden because it'll be a lot less in the way over on this side here. But there's no sun here because this oak tree is in the way. It drops a lot of acorns in my garden, and it also causes a lot of shade. So this needs to be trimmed. The problem that we have with oak trees is oak wilt. That is a fungus that has affected us here in the Midwest and as far south as Texas. It is a devastating fungus that hits oak trees, particularly red oak trees, and we are trying to avoid that. We've already had one oak tree that got destroyed by oak wilt, and it was devastating to us. We don't like killing our trees. We love our oak trees. We love our hardwoods, and we definitely were at fault for that death, and I will show you that one here shortly. But oak wilt is a fungal disease that hits oak trees through an injury to the tree. So this is not any type of injury to the tree, such as trimming it, pruning it, bumping against it with a piece of machinery, which is what we did when we were clearing out some of this land. We bumped an oak tree with a bulldozer and just put a small scratch in it, and that small scratch was just enough to introduce that fungus into that tree. And that tree, it was a huge oak tree, and that thing was dead within 6 weeks. And I'm talking dead, unsavable dead. And that's not something that we want any of our other oak trees. And it does spread very readily through neighboring oak trees. So when it comes to oak wilt, you want to avoid trimming or pruning any oak trees during the growing season, April 15 through about July 15. But just to be on the safe side, we are doing this in the middle of the winter because we do not want to introduce any type of fungus to this tree, especially so close to my garden. Now, last fall, we had to trim a white oak, and white oaks are susceptible to this fungus, but not quite so much as the red oaks. They can recover a little bit. They're a little bit more resistant to the oak wilt virus. They can lose several branches. They can look like they're dying, but they can recover. Some die all the way, but they do have the ability to recover a little bit more so than the red oaks. So we did take a chance, and in I think September, when we got our shipping container, we had to trim a branch for the truck to come in with our shipping container in our driveway. It wasn't going to make it under that branch, and rather than having him hit the branch and destroy something on his truck or the shipping container or causing damage to the tree, we opted to trim that tree. We were outside of the growing season technically, so we felt it was safe, but we also patched that tree with some tree patch. It was the spray paint stuff that you can spray on trees that are injured, and just made sure that we did that right away, and we were very careful with our trimming, and so far that tree is fine. So white oaks, you can be a little bit more lenient in your trimming, but you still want to make sure that you do this definitely in a safe time of year. So the difference between a red oak and a white oak, the red oaks have the pointy leaves, and the white oaks have more of a rounded leaf. So you can tell that that's the simplest way. I can't tell by bark, but you can definitely tell by the leaves. So we are going to trim these branches today while it's really cold out. It's actually probably the nicest day of the week. We got more snow coming. Yeah, we've had some really warm days. We've had a lot of rain, and the rain has really melted the snow. This is typically what we get in January. We get a lot of snow in January, and we get that January thaw, we get the rain and it melts away, and then we get snow again. So we're about a month ahead of time on all of this snow melt that we got, but we have another big storm coming. So today's the day to be out here getting this done, so we don't worry about it. We don't forget about it until it's too close to the growing season where we're going to jeopardize this tree. So let me go show you what the other tree looks like that we actually killed. So you can see our property. The previous owner, about 40 or 50 years ago, planted all of these pine trees with the thought that they were going to harvest them for Christmas trees. I don't think they're the right kind of trees for Christmas trees, and they got neglected. So this is what we are left with. And we've been slowly cleaning this up in order to get the garden expanded. We're on the back side of the garden right here. There's the fence. And been slowly cleaning this up. We're hoping to get a forestry mulcher guy in here this spring and get the rest of this cleaned up. But when we were using the bulldozer to get this cleaned up is when we nicked the oak tree. Definitely not the prettiest looking property with these trees, which is why we're starting to clean it up. We've been cleaning up the lower branches as high as we can reach, which was a really nice thing about my little DeWalt chainsaw. It was nice and light, so I could get it over my head as far as I could get those branches trimmed. You can see there's dead branches all the way up. Some of these trees are just completely dead, and those are all going to come out of there. But because these trees are so ugly that as we clean them out, get the dead ones out of here, start cleaning up, the trees do seem to be kind of coming back and getting a little greener. So we try to save the ones that are savable by getting all this junk out of here, which is what we were doing. So this is the tree that was damaged by the bulldozer. And it was just, see if I can get you up there. That branch right there got bent back a little bit by the bulldozer. And that right there was enough to kill this entire tree. And this is a big size oak tree. It's probably a good 16 inches diameter. And it was an absolutely beautiful tree, and we killed it. So oak wilt can be transmitted a couple different ways. It is most of the time transmitted via the roots. As the roots touch each other from different trees, about 90% of the spread is through the roots, and that is a little bit slower of a process than the insect route, but it's still just as devastating. Now, when a tree gets damaged, it puts off some sap, and sap beetles are attracted to the scent of that sap, and they come right into the tree, and then they transmit that fungus. They carry that fungus from tree to tree and introduce it to that injury on the tree. So it's very rapid, it's devastating, and even a tree that is damaged by wind through a storm could be susceptible to this type of fungus. So be careful of your oak trees. If you have damage from a storm during that prime season of April 15 through July 15, you definitely want to make sure that you coat that tree with some sort of protectant to keep that fungus from getting in there, because they move fast. Like I said, the average tree dies within 4 to 8 weeks and completely dead. And with the backdrop of the rest of this area here, we definitely wanted to keep these oak trees. Now, I'm not sure if this other oak tree, which is not too far from here, they definitely could have touching roots. This one just fell over and is dying as well. Not sure if that's related to the oak wilt or not, but that one is dying, and that one is a very large tree. It's got, well, it had 4 trunks to it. And one of them's on the ground. It's a lot of firewood for us right there. This one's not too far from the dead one right there. So these are probably both related to the oak wilt. And we kind of feel responsible for this. So it's definitely something to keep in mind when you live in areas where this is prevalent. So Dan is running some errands today. As soon as he gets home, we are going to trim that branch. The hardest part is going to be keeping it off my fence and not dropping it on the fence. I think our biggest failure in the garden last year was definitely the deer, and a lot of my garden just did not recover in time to get a good crop of some things. Some of the longer season crops just did not do well. So we are going to make sure we don't damage that fence, get this oak tree trimmed, and hopefully make a little bit more room for some more perennials. If you guys want any more information on oak wilt, the website michiganoakwilt.org is an excellent resource. There's also a couple other ones through the DNR and some Wikipedia pages, and I'll put those links in the description below so you can read about them. Don't do what we did. Don't kill your oak trees. We feel horrible about it, and it's devastating. Those oak trees were old and they died so quickly. It was sad. Happy New Year. Hope you guys have a terrific year, and happy garden planning. We will see you next time. Bye.